Hi everyone, today is Throwback Thursday. I'm excited. It's got, yet again, I've got quite a little diverse group of things to look back at, and it's interesting to me how sometimes things just work out, and you'll see, I think it's all really pertinent stuff. I have a cheeky boy in the background, hopefully he's not too distracting. We'll see what happens. Okay, so let's start way back when. On this day, on the 11th of June in 1509, so we're looking at 511 years ago, King Henry VIII, possibly one of the most well-known kings of England, purely because of how notorious he was, he married his first wife, and his first wife was Catherine of Aragon. Now, they ended up having their marriage annulled, but the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church back in that day, did not recognise divorce, was not allowed. And so King Henry thought, well, too bad, I'm going to make my own religion. And he literally went out and created the Church of England. So he didn't like what was happening or what was being imposed on him by his church, so he went and changed it, and then became very famous for having several more wives and having a few of those beheaded. So as you know, we've previously looked at the man who invented the guillotine, the chopping off of the head. You can find out heaps about Henry VIII in the Horrible History series, which I've mentioned already on my little lessons. So yeah, that was Henry. Top guy. What else happened today? Oh, I like this one too. On Tuesday, on Teaching Moment Tuesday, I talked about having naturalist intelligence. This man is the absolute epitome of that. And he was born on this day, on the 11th of June, back in 1910. And his name is Jacques Cousteau. Now, he's a French man, and he was many, many things. As I was growing up, I knew him most as an explorer of the sea, but I was having a look, and he was not only that, he was also a naval officer, a conservationist, a filmmaker, an innovator, a scientist, a photographer, an author, a researcher. And he studied all of the creatures, the animals, the environment of the sea. He's an absolute stellar example of someone who has naturalistic intelligence. And I was thinking about it a bit more. To me, he's like the sea version, the ocean version of Steve Irwin, where Steve was into our land animal and sea animals, but you know, land animals, and crocs, obviously, crocodiles. Jacques was very much all about the ocean. And yeah, today was the day that he was born. And what an incredible man to be inspired by, if that is your interest. If you enjoy wildlife, if you particularly enjoy the sea wildlife. Sea wildlife? Life in the sea. I wonder what the phrasing would be for that. In any case, check him out. Do some research. I think you'll be inspired. This last one I want to talk about is incredibly pertinent at the moment. And it's about a speech that was made on this day, on the 11th of June, and this speech was made in 1963 by the president at the time, John F. Kennedy, also casually referred to as JFK. JFK, on this day, back in 1963, gave a speech on civil rights, and he talked. It was one of those speeches, you know, a speech is important when it plays on the radio and the television at the same time, and no matter what channel you turn to, the leader of the country is making that speech. I've only seen it happen maybe 2 or 3 times in my lifetime. It's a big deal when it happens. And he was talking about legislation that he and the government had put forward that would later go on to become the Civil Rights Act. And what that means is he was looking at the state of America, and he basically said that segregation is morally wrong. It's time to act. What's segregation? Segregation is when they would divide the community into who was white and who was black. So schools were segregated for a really long time in America. And black kids and families would go to one school, white kids and their families would go to another school. That's, I guess, the simplest example I can give you of segregation, because it was deemed that they shouldn't be taught together. So John F. Kennedy was saying, well, hold on a minute, no, that's not right. That's not how we want to live in our country. The reason I say this is really pertinent now is because we're all aware that things are happening over in America and here in Australia. After George Floyd was killed, there were massive protests, and the rallying cry of Black Lives Matter has been huge across the United States and across Australia. So these issues are so very important. I have already put a few links on my Facebook page to books, fiction books, that help kids understand what racism is and how to be anti-racist and how to have an understanding of the impact it's had on our lives. So I would highly recommend any teachers or adults at home to search for some of these books, and they can be picture books for the younger kids, chapter books for the older kids, to really get an understanding. I know I'm personally doing a lot of learning at the moment myself. I'm listening to a few different books to help me get a better understanding of what's going on in the world at the moment. And to be clear, it's always gone on. It's just right now, it's really in everyone's attention, as it should be, because it's a problem that needs to be fixed. I mean, this speech was in 1963, that's a long time ago, and we still have problems. So clearly nothing has worked as well as it should have by now. So yeah, Henry VIII gets married, Jacques Cousteau is born, JFK makes an incredible and very important speech. And I'd like to leave you with the fact that John Lennon and Yoko Ono wrote or released, possibly, I don't have this one written in front of me, The Ballad of John and Yoko, which I really want to play on my YouTube, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed, so I'm just going to link it below and you can have a listen yourself. All right, thanks for joining me this throwback, what day is it, Miss Ali? Thursday, Throwback Thursday. Thank you for joining me this Throwback Thursday. And please, if you have any feedback, let me know. I'd love to be able to, read a letter or an email from someone, or just share your general thoughts. All right, thanks. See you. Bye.